Up next, please welcome Professor Chua Chi Kai, Head of Pillar for the Engineering Product Development Program. With him are EPD professors Lo Hong Yi and Tan Mei Chi, and EPD alumni Alex Fonseca and current student Kushagra Jain.
Many people may not know, but 3D printing was used to print the nasal swabs. Singapore, like the rest of the world, is facing unprecedented challenges and problems. Food security, aging society, climate change, clean energy, water, just to name a few. We want to train our students to be able to not only understand the problems, but be able to deliver solutions to make a better world by design. Second, a typical EPD student would have undergone 25 to 30 projects through the 4 years at Sutd, and we believe the hands-on, the opportunity to work on project will allow them to understand all the tools at their disposal, but also be not afraid of working with their hands-on. Engineering Design Innovation is our flagship program where we put our students through both the understanding of design to solve a problem, but also through a project where hands-on is involved. So they take their design through modeling, through conception, and finally to realization in the form of a prototype. Beyond engineering, we also want our students to be trained in other aspects like even ethical issues. Sometimes a better solution need not to be just technical or helping the company to make profits, but also looking at the impact to society. I want to illustrate the example of Professor Michinao Hashimoto. He has done 3D printing of chocolate and milk. Now he has actually implemented his work right now of practical use to Kutikot Hospital, where patients suffering from stroke or dementia need a diet that is puriform, which will not choke the patients. We have just launched a new track this year. It is called Beyond Industry 4.0. In the last 300 years, Industry 1.0 have moved on to 4.0. In the first two, where it took about 100 years, the last has actually taken only 50 years. So you can see it's compressed, and 5.0 could be upon us anytime, and which is why we call our new track Beyond Industry 4.0. And it's important for our students, a new breed of engineers who will go out there and transform the industry to understand all the competencies. So it's not about the book knowledge that you learn, but the attitude that you show, the mindset. The values and attributes that we inculcate in our students extends beyond what they learn. With the rapid change in science and technology, what they have learned in university in 5 to 10 years would possibly have become obsolete. So it's important for them to have the ability to learn, relearn, and unlearn. To question the norm is also something we inculcate in our students when they approach a problem. And this is what makes SUTD graduates unique. I am Professor Chua Chi Kai, Head of Pillar for Engineering Product Development. If you aspire to be a design engineer and solve real-world problems with product innovation, join us.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today at the Ask EPD session, Engineering Product Development. I'm Alexander. I'm a master's student here in SUTD and an EPD graduate. Today, we're joined by a few very interesting people to talk about EPD and answer your questions, things you might like to know about this pillar. Firstly, we have Professor Chua Chi Kai, Cheng San Man Chair Professor and also Head of Pillar for EPD, Associate Professor Lo Hong Yi, who is Associate Head of Pillar and also Director for the D-Man-D Lab, Digital Manufacturing and Design Lab. We also have Associate Professor Tan Mei Chi, who is a very cool prof. We love her. And also my man, Kushagra Jain, who is a Term 4 student who is currently in EPD. Myself, I'm a robotics track graduate from EPD, and I'm now doing battery research in the labs. So we had a nice video that talked about this wonderful thing called Beyond Industry 4.0, a new track that's been launched recently to prepare ourselves for the future, to transform the industry to a 5.0 state. Professor Chua, what actually goes into this Beyond Industry 4.0 track?
So this track was launched about 2 years back with the aim that we train our graduates, a very new breed of design engineers, who will go out there and be the catalyst for change. As you know, the state of our industries are possibly at different, maybe industry 2.0, 3.0, and what we hope our students to be when they are out there will help the industry level up to transform them, to be the catalyst of change. So it's important that while they're at SUTD, they will be trained in all these different competencies. Industry 4.0 is a whole set of different skill sets like robotics, 3D printing, Internet of Things, AI, machine learning, and so on and so forth. When we look around SUTD, we do have the professors who are competent in each of these different areas. So what we did is to put together all these competencies in a track that will attract the students and train them. But beyond the textbook, we also believe that industries must partner us. So before we launched the program, we actually went around to talk to quite a few dozens of companies, talk to these industry captains, find out exactly what would they need and what would they look forward to. And with that inputs, we actually fine-tune our curriculum further. And the program was actually very well received because it's evidence from the different awards that we have received from Dyson and Mayban, Makino. So they have given us not only merit awards, track awards, as well as exchange awards, so that our students can also go overseas to North America, Europe, and Asia to spend time in those universities to take courses in Industry 4.0 in lieu of the courses at SUTD. So they don't really have to do extra courses, but do them in lieu of. And this exchange, this internship at companies, coupled with all the courses they take, will actually prepare our students for the future. So that's the whole idea behind this Beyond Industry 4.0.
I see. Okay. Thank you very much for that. So we are looking into the future, going to the things that people think are a little bit edge, a little bit more esoteric at the time, and we are bringing it here into SUTD to equip our students so we can all be trailblazers for the industry and hit. Now, over here, I would like to encourage you all to ask questions. There are mics over at the stairs. Go ahead and step up if you have anything you'd like to ask. If not, I'll also be drawing questions from the online session. So for those of you who are at home and watching this on your devices, feel free to put your questions in the Q&A box, and I'll have them answered by our panelists here. In fact, let's do that now. We have one by Wen Feng Ang. Is it possible for someone from the industrial design to join this course? I think broadly speaking also, is someone who is not already trained to be an engineer or not already strong in physics and math suitable for EPD? Prof. Loh, do you want to take this?
Sure. So we do have, in the past, we have students who have joined us without, let's say, A-level physics. It is an important aspect of being an engineer. So on the first year, all students have to take math and physics. So I say that a simple answer to that question is yes, because we have had students who had joined us without, for example, physics in A-level. So the freshman courses kind of prepare students who are interested in EPD by kind of bringing your foundation up in those subjects. So the straight answer is yes.
Yeah, and also just to sell my own koyok, I used to be a TA for a bunch of freshman students in SUTD earlier this year. And one of the things that I find is really important is that everyone is leveled up to the same level. So the freshman course actually has math and physics components that bring everyone up to the same starting line so that when they eventually hit into the pillar level, everyone knows the basics and is able to take on what the pillar has in store for them. So over here, yes, the inevitable question about careers. I can understand because I noticed quite a few of you in the audience are parents, and we all want what's best for our child. So over here, we have a question about the careers that can be pursued under the healthcare engineering track. So, Prof. Shah, do you want to take this question? What do you think are the careers that you can pursue if you're a healthcare engineering track graduate? And what companies could possibly be your employer for this?
Okay, there are ample opportunities. I think one of our alumni joined a smaller SME called Clary. So there are many companies involved in, let's say, medical technology, medical devices. Even the hospitals, they can play a role there because at the end of the day, a lot of instrumentation that you see in the hospitals are actually designed and produced by engineers. So the role for these engineers, after being trained in a healthcare track, is to be able to participate in solutions for companies that are doing projects in healthcare. And it's actually very diverse. So we can look at companies that are local SMEs. For instance, there are now quite a number of companies producing, let's say, your nasal swabs, the one that is being used quite a bit during the pandemic, or many other PPEs and things like that. And these are actually all the healthcare training that they receive. Besides that, of course, the defense industry, for instance, DSO, they will also require some aspects of this healthcare training as well. And there are others who went on to, of course, to pursue a medical degree after the training here, to like do anywhere, and they become a medical doctor, and they can go pursue further to even become a clinical scientist to do research in this area. So there are various pathways, not just going into the industry, but even furthering yourself in education.
Maybe I could add to that. MedTech industry has always been one of the important kind of industry pillar in Singapore. So our healthcare track has a strong emphasis on training in technologies or medical technologies associated with the medtech industries. I guess one of our famous courses under the healthcare track, in fact, is a course that is done in close collaboration with Changi General Hospitals, where students are given real-world problem in the hospital. This could be problem related to today's limitation of surgical tools or medical instruments. So students actually go through projects to solve this real-world kind of hospital equipment-associated problem, for example. There are also problems associated with diagnostic methodologies. So I think the career path for healthcare tracks is really very, very relevant, especially to the medtech industries in Singapore.
Yeah, thanks, Song, for reminding me about that. So we actually work very closely with CGH for the last 7 or 8 years. And in fact, since last year, we have extended it further to the entire SynHealth group. So we are working now with a whole bunch of hospitals, polyclinics, and coming up with solutioning for many different aspects in healthcare, looking at health population, and especially with the pandemic, what are the kind of solutions we can bring. So a lot of the collaboration with the hospitals actually resulted into projects for our students. So like what Hong Yi said, we have one on healthcare product design. So all the problem statements came from the clinicians, and the students work in groups to come up with new intellectual property to solve these very practical problems that are faced in the hospitals.
Yeah, I think people tend to forget, that everything needs an engineer. As long as there's a product, as long as there's some kind of problem that needs to be solved, you need to throw an engineer at it. Yeah, so I can personally vouch for the stuff that's being done in CGH, because I know a few people in the lab who are working on several robotics projects with Chart to make a lot of things happen, to automate a lot of processes, to make things easier for our healthcare industry. So there is actually a lot of potential in the healthcare engineering track. It's really just for you to go there and find it. So thank you. Just a quick welcome to those who have just joined us. I noticed a few of us just joined in the auditorium, and also to those who have just logged on the Zoom or whichever platform this may be. Thank you for joining us today at the Ask EPD session. Over here, finally, the questions about comparing between different pillars. Here comes the competitive spirit. From Kathleen, what is the difference between EPD's computer engineering track and a degree from ISTD? I think, Prof. Mechi, do you want to take this?
Yeah, sure. So basically with the increased emphasis in terms of the digital transformation of the various industries, right, one can suggest that, almost every degree course within Singapore will be, headed in that direction with a different emphasis on how the digital aspects could either be, improved, or the types of innovations required to push certain basically degrees, for example. So at SUTD itself, there are several courses that highlights different elements of them, right? Within EPD, it is really preparing us in that sense for the cyber physical infrastructure, right? So within the computer engineering track, our students will be taking a lot of the courses that will be core to EPD, right? For example, structure and mechanics, circuits and electronics. So these are the typical courses taken by a mechanical engineer, electrical engineer, product designers. Progressively, as they progress, to the higher levels, they will begin taking, additional classes offered by our basically friends, in computer science and design, or that pillar, as well as in DAI, right? So they will basically bring together skill sets, but with a larger emphasis on, the product, cyber physical infrastructure aspects of things, right? So each of them will bring in something quite unique, but the focus, admittedly, at EPD will be largely still on developing, designing, and creating of products. Okay? Yeah. I hope that addresses the questions.
Yeah, so I guess the comparison compared to the other pillars is that EPD was still very rooted in the physical, the reality. If you could hit a product with a hammer, ours is the only one where you'll get better by hitting. So, all right. I have a question here for Kush, actually. I'd like to ask the students, this is from Esther, who's online. I'd like to ask the students, why do you choose SUTD EPD over the other SG universities? Do you consider other traditional engineering programs in NUS/NTU when applying? Kush.
Yes, I did. And I think one of the reasons why I picked SUTD in particular is because you get to explore everything before you really commit to what you want to do. In other traditional universities, you basically go straight into whatever field you applied for. But in SUTD, you get to explore, what all there is out there, because sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And part of that is why I like EPD so much, is you can explore things from electrical, mechanical, robotics, pick a whole bunch of different things to understand what goes on in each thing. So not only does this arm you with a bunch of extra skills that you can find useful in many different situations, it also sort of allows you to find what's most comfortable. I came to SUTD thinking maybe I want to do robotics, but eventually later down the line I found that my true love lies in materials. So part of that is the kind of flexibility that we have here. The other thing is I'm taking a minor in digital humanities, which in addition to engineering, it's really important that we, the next generation, have this connection with the arts and humanities. And I think that's extra step allows us to have a little bit more soft skills and maybe understand the worldview a little bit better. So I think a lot of these things, having this interdisciplinary education is one of the reasons why SUTD was my top pick. Hopefully that answers the question.
Well, I'm going to chip in because, I'm a student too. Hey, don't forget me, but I made my choice 5 years ago. So that's the difference. For me, it's not, these are really big ideals that he's holding to. Mine was a really practical one. I just liked the way that lessons were taught in SUTD a lot more than everywhere else. I knew for a fact that I was going to be an engineer, boy with dreams of robots and Iron Man suits and A in physics, it kind of tells you where you're going, right? But when I looked at the way I studied, I absolutely hated the kind of dry rote learning style that is very prevalent in other unis. Not to diss on them, it just isn't for me. I have a terrible attention span. In fact, right now I'm thinking about lunch already. So, but when I came to SUTD and I saw what they were offering, they were saying, it's all, you don't have to sit through this 6-hour lecture. Okay, not 6, but we'll break up the lesson, we'll check your understanding, and we'll get you to do projects. Because there's this saying from about military affairs that no plan survives first contact with the enemy. Same thing, you think you understand, and then until I ask you, you say, okay, you know so much, you're going to build a robot, then you just, oh, actually I don't know anything at all. The surest way of knowing that you know something is to actually be able to do it, to manifest it in reality. And I think that's just so critical and so important. If you want to develop like a deep and genuine understanding about anything, you got to get your hands dirty. And EPD is exactly the kind of pillar that enables that. So if you want to know your stuff, hey, EPD is for you. Okay, over here we have a question from Vanessa. This is online. Those of you who are in the audience, you are most welcome to step up to the mics and ask a question. But anyway, Vanessa asks, can you name a few prominent industry companies currently collaborating with EPD, and in which engineering area? I think Prof. Chikai, this is your thing, right? Okay,
yeah. All right, so the latest, I think if you have followed the news, probably last month, Dyson announced quite a big investments into Singapore. And one of the main beneficiaries is Sutd. So with Dyson, we are setting up a joint lab, which will allow our students to really understand the DNA of Dyson. And it will be a whole year event where we have different terms, different courses that will involve the engineers. Maybe I speak from my own course, for instance. So I teach a subject called Industry 4.0 and 3D printing. So last year when Dyson first got involved with us, they wanted to give a top prize to the best student in the 3D printing project in the course. So we sat down, we discussed, and they came up with a subject, say, how about 3D printing a musical instrument? So we did that. We had a class of 16, so 16 projects, 16 3D printed instruments. And the Dyson engineers and ourselves, we formed a panel of judges. We went through the students' presentation. We saw the 3D printed stuff. And they were so impressed that eventually they gave one additional prize, not just. So the top prize was 2,005 cash to one student, but added another 1,000 to the second prize. But during the debrief, they felt that they wanted to do more with Sutd. They like the way we teach, they like the way we engage the students, and they really like our talented students. So with that, we discussed on how else can we enhance the collaboration. And finally, this year it was announced, we have now quite a huge investment from them to set up a joint lab. And with that, instead of just one subject, we now will have 3-4 subjects across different pillars even, not just EPD, but also ISTD. We also will be launching a new nationwide 3D printing competition. So it will be on lean engineering. The idea is to allow students to look around us where are the areas that we can really increase our productivity using a 3D printed prototype. So this will challenge all the students in the JCs, in the polys, and this will go on for the next 5 years. And this is the way you promote science, technology, engineering, and mathematics to the next generation, to the students who are right now in the schools. And I think this is an area which we need to beef up so that we have enough share of talents in engineering for the country. So I think this is our little way of contributing back to STEM. And Dyson has actually chosen Sutd as the partner, not the other universities. And for a very sure reason, they really like our way of teaching students. They like the talents that we have, and that's why they partner us. So I'll stop here because there are actually a few other companies that have also come in.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Chua. Over here, we have someone who is very interested in the medtech line. So this is by someone who just signed off as T. Not sure what that stands for, but what is the unique value proposition of Sutd/EPD's healthcare track compared to biomedical engineering programs offered by NUS/NTU, for example? Prof. Loh, do you think this is, yeah?
Okay, I can take that questions. I think if you missed it a little earlier, we gave a specific example of a specific course on how our students collaborate with real world situation. But generally, one big difference between our healthcare track and let's say a classical biomedical engineering program is the emphasis on design, right? So, and design, some of you have probably heard of the phrase design thinking, but design with a solutions for medical technologies. You go through that training of essentially from the fundamental of design thinking to part of engineering design and part of understanding the real world situation of healthcare. In another kind of differentiation, I would say healthcare is a broader term than biomedical engineering. So the issues of healthcare could be medical-oriented, hospital-oriented, but it could also be people-oriented. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, the main difference.
If I could, I would like to add a few more things, all right? So one massive difference, not only applicable to the healthcare track, but to almost all the other 7 tracks within EPD is when you are specializing within a certain track, say healthcare, you are still given the opportunity to work together with students from other pillars, other tracks, right? So it is not just, let's say, when we talk about working on a healthcare problem, it is not just students from the healthcare track coming together, right? It could be students from healthcare, robotics, each of them bringing in their own unique perspective as well as skills to address a healthcare problem, right? So this is very different compared to many other local universities where usually when students are working on a project, they are still working amongst people with the same, emphasis in terms of their degree, right? All the biomedical engineers coming together. Here, you have the opportunity, for example, in some of the healthcare classes, to be working with students from computer science, from engineering systems. So again, these opportunities basically, in a way, my personal belief is help students learn how to work with people from very different skill sets, all right? Leverage on these strengths and basically work together to address one particular real world problem that could be from a clinician, all right? That could be also from, some of the agency for integrated care, for example, right? So to me, this is one of the biggest difference here.
Yeah, you don't mind, just add in as well. I basically lead healthcare for the entire university, and what we have seen so far amongst all the different projects we have is led by different PIs coming from different pillars. So you can see it's very diverse. I think when you use the term biomedical engineering, you kind of focus on engineering. But when I look at the principal investigators that we have from our faculty, we have people who are non-engineers. We have architects who are leading. So for instance, when we work with the new hospital that's coming up in the east, we look at the design for the hospital from the architectural point of view. How do you design a hospital in view of the pandemic, for instance? So we can see that when we talk about healthcare, it goes outside engineering as well. So I'm just giving you an example. Even our folks from humanities and social science are involved in our healthcare program. So it's very broad. And if you look at healthcare, I think the big thing, one of the biggest challenges today is aging society. But actually it's very broad spectrum. It actually comes looking from the baby when it's in the cradle, all the way in how you age gracefully. So it's the entire spectrum of our lives. In every aspect of it, healthcare can play a role. And it goes beyond engineering. So I hope it helps to explain the difference.
Yeah, so let me try to summarize all of that, is that because I guess the one-liner that you can take away is that we deal with the complexities of real-world problems, right? You operate in a lab is clean, sterile, you know exactly what to do. Pipette from A to B, shake for like 48 hours, and then you see what happens, right? But in reality, you can't grab a grandma and shake her for 48 hours, right? She'll say no. There's a lot of problems. You have to negotiate with team members. You have to negotiate with your stakeholders. Your problem is not, you have to negotiate with your problem, all these things. And that is a unique skill that is often forgotten when you're an engineer. The only way to learn it is to experience it. And I think that is what is unique about taking up our healthcare track. We find a problem, we actually go and tussle with it, the complexities of it all, and we come out better and stronger for it. Over here, I think we have a few questions. I think it's because we are the first pillar to be doing this, because I'm getting a lot of questions about school culture, hacker culture, maker culture. What's the life of a student like in SUTD? So let's try to sum that up. We've got questions from like Andrew Gunawan, David Hopkins, and Oy Lit Shen. So what's the life of an EPD student in SUTD like? And maybe we can talk a bit about the culture aspect and the maker aspect of it. So Kush, can you take this question?
Sure. I think the biggest thing about SUTD is that it's very difficult to not do something. Everyone is always involved in one thing or another. And this applies not just to a maker culture, but I think student life here is pretty great in general. Almost everyone is going to be involved in some sort of creative pursuit or another. And you'll have people from very different backgrounds coming together on this. And I think the fact that everyone's so different, but we all share this sort of same love for making things, you're going to be seeing projects happening outside of class as well. So most of the time, you're never just chasing academics. Most of the time, everybody you know will be involved in some projects here, some hackathon over there, some competition. It just keeps going on, and I think it's very fun to get involved in. It's tiring, you get very exhausted, you have like countless sleepless nights, maybe a lot of coffee, for those of you who are into that. But it's a very, very rewarding outcome at the end of it when you're finally done and you look at your finished product and you're like, yes, we've made something. And it's that kind of satisfaction that I think SUTD has as a very unique thing, that everybody wants to do something. It's not a very passive culture here. Everyone's hands-on.
Yeah, actually, when you mentioned the sleepless nights thing, when I was young, I watched my mom pull sleepless nights just to finish her work. And I thought to myself, Ma, why would you ever do that? And then scroll forward 15 years later, right? And I'm doing this project. I see the sun rising. And on my project file, it says, oh my God, I can see the sun. So there is a very deep passion that's rooted in every project team. And I think that's just so wonderful to see, you know, that dedication to, I want to make this work and I'm willing to put in the work, right? Let's not fool ourselves that, you know, when we go out to work, it will be very smooth sailing. You never sleep late, you never sleep past, you never stay awake past like midnight, you know. Reality is that sometimes you will encounter problems that demand your attention, that demand your time, and you have to work for it. And it starts here, that kind of lethal mental focus on, I need to get things done, and I will put in the work to do it. And it really makes us quite special, I think, that when you have all these students who are coming out who know that, you know, there are things that need to be done, I'm willing to ask questions, I'm willing to look a little bit stupid, I'm willing to go and do the difficult work that is required to make things happen. And I think that is integral to the SUTD culture. If you look at the kind of stuff we do for our fifth rows, right, the amount of dedication that goes into different projects, while balancing your curriculum, it is really, you know, you're living a really fulfilling life. At the end of it, at the end of the 4 years, you're going to look back and it's like, wow, why is my resume so much longer than everyone else? Because you've got project A, project B, project C. For me, my proudest project took us 3 nights. Okay, my proudest project is this EPD project called Hachiko. It's a robot that does deliveries by using buses as a means of transport. Very strange, very abstract, and also pretty crazy because we ended up having to pull 3 all-nighters, just like consecutive all-nighters, just to make it happen. But it was worth it because at the end of the day, we can talk so much about it. This is, I think, is also the kind of students that we want to draw in, not someone who is passive, who is like, I just want to pass, I just want to get a B, you know, that kind of thing. We want people who come in, who have passion, who have spirit, who, you know, they might not know exactly what they want at that time, but they're willing to chase. And I think that is really just integral to how you live a good life. Okay, sorry, that's a bit too philosophical. So, sorry.
So, Alex, stay up till dawn was not enough, eh?
3 times.
And just to add, you know, it's not just the student body who goes, you know, sleepless. I'm fairly certain the faculty members, the head of pillar, also end up going sleepless nights, right? So, you know, I guess I think the community as a whole, right, be it, you know, the admin support, you know, the faculty members and the students, right, is a community coming together, you know, losing sleep, in short, right? But it's primarily because, you know, there's a certain passionate drive towards, you know, achieving something, about growing something together. You know, so it's a small community, but at the same time, you know, driven together by this, you know, strong passion towards making things, doing things, making a difference in our, you know, society.
Yeah, I'm going to take this chance, you know, because that was a big question with a lot of big answers and a lot to chew about. So we're going to rapid fire go through some of the more nitty-gritty questions first. So I'll take this one. This is from Ravishankar Dut. What percentage of work done by students by themselves when they develop a prototype? Is it all done by the students or partner with industry? Thanks. The answer is us. all us. Right? Sometimes we'll ask the prof, we'll catch out the prof, hey prof, amplifier doesn't work, how? And prof will say, prof will come down at 8 a.m., 8 p.m., like, hey, message come out, it's like, hey, oh, you need to do this, you forgot this. Oh, okay, thanks, prof. Then afterwards, you message prof again at 11 p.m. and you get an answer. So yeah, everyone, we do the work. We put in the work, right? If we do collaborations with industries, actually there's a very strong tendency for the industries to be like, they will judge your work and they'll say, this is not good, I would like this better, this is not bad, do this again, right? Then they throw this to the students and then we have to like figure out how to make that happen. That happens a lot for Capstone, our final year project. So yeah, it's all us. Okay. Over here, we have a question from Chiu Chan Tan. Do you have part-time bachelor degree classes / courses? Profs, we don't, right?
I don't think
Yeah.
so. No, not at the moment.
Yeah. So at the moment, no. We are full-time. This is what we do.
Yeah, one of the key reasons is primarily because, as what you have heard, a lot of our classes in the bachelor degree are largely project-centric, right? Regardless whether it's EPD or any other classes. Consequently, in that sense, it does require quite a bit of dedication in terms of being able to do well. So the time is required. So as of now, our bachelor degree programs largely full-time.
Yeah. And we have one more here asking about, is SUTD looking at projects in satellite technology? Do we have any projects like that?
Actually, there is a club in SUTD that's looking at rocketry. Maybe not quite satellite, what you're looking for, but they are looking into rocketry, and I think there are collaborations with other universities as well. I believe the club's name is SEDS, Students for Exploration and Development of Space, or something like that. Satellite outright, maybe not so much, but that could be an avenue for you if you want to try and explore that.
Yeah, so it kind of really depends because there are some, let's say, your wireless comm, stuff that is related to, I guess, satellite tech to a certain extent. There are faculty members working on that kind of aspects. So again, I guess the opportunities here, is ever evolving. Most of us do not fixate on one particular area. So do drop by, look at our labs, look at our so-called booths, as well as our resources online. You'll be able to find out a lot more.
Okay, and with that, we have one last rapid-fire question. This is from Velusamy. Which are the international universities that SUTD is associated with? So, profs, do you want to weigh in?
Okay, so in this case, right, in terms of the curriculum that has been developed, in the initial years, a lot of it that, the basis that was formed largely, admittedly, was based on, our collaboration with MIT. In the later years, especially if you look at the research front, where our students can be involved in the undergraduate research program from the very first year, that's how I got to know Kush as well, right? We do, involve them in our collaborations with various other renowned international universities, right? There are some of us, who's working with, I don't know, it ranges, between your US universities, UK universities, quite a number, right? So it's very difficult for me to just give you a very quick short list, but sufficient to say that, it's quite broad. Off the top of my head, I can't remember all of them.
Yeah, I think it's not possible to name the list of universities that our undergraduate programs are associated with. But I want to kind of bring up that at the beginning of the university formation, there is the phrase called the best of the East and the West. So our association with university or international university include university in the US, in Europe, as well as in Asia. So one example is our longtime partner with Zhejiang University, one of the top university in China in technology and engineering, right? That's obviously beside MIT, beside UC Berkeley. So I hope that answered the question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just want to add that, I went to Zhejiang for my exchange. It was amazing. I was doing this project, a data visualization project with a bank in China, and it was just absolutely mind-blowing. And at the end of the exchange, right, I look at the product and it's like, I did this? Oh, wow. And then apparently it's going up in one of their regional HQs. So, hey, well done me. Okay, so let's see. We've got quite a few questions flowing in here. And I see that Wendy has come along to advertise SETS, the Space Exploration Group. Okay. Now, once again, so just wanted to welcome all the people who have just dropped in over online, who are watching us from home or whichever devices you are. And for the rest, I would like to encourage you all to ask questions. We are going into the last few minutes of this Ask EPD session. So, now's a really good time to ask us questions if you have any. Okay. We have a question here, a bit of a hard question really, from N, which is, SUTD has higher tuition fees as compared to other universities. What about SUTD is, able to justify this? Thank you. So, Prof, I'm
going to give it a go here.
All right.
Just because, we are the one teaching. Because of our emphasis on hands-on learning, so the university actually invested a lot in the facilities, physical facilities, in order to support all kind of hands-on project. And of course, you also probably know that our faculty members to student ratio is pretty high. I can give you one specific example of a senior year course that I teach named Micro Nano Lab. In this course, students get to have hands-on experience on some of the state-of-the-art, extremely expensive instrumentations. And so these are not possible without money, of course. So I think that's one aspect why generally our tuition fee is slightly higher than others.
Can I chip in on that? I think one of the extra things that I guess you pay for here is the fact that everyone is close, and you can be extremely close to professors. You can walk into their offices and just ask them tons and tons of extremely dumb questions, but it is that interaction and that sort of closeness that you can develop that I think goes beyond any sort of material, gains that you might have. The experiences and the understanding that you get out of having a close-knit community, I think that is ultimately what you are getting out of your money's worth for.
Yeah, and part of it, it does cover the aspects, the so-called, I would call it the hidden costs, all right, of the support that the students can receive being part of this community, right? Between, very simple things like, if you need help, in terms of expressing yourself in your writing, all right? Because take for example, if your language skills aren't great, we have a writing center to help you guys improve, right? Not just to write it for you, but to actually improve, to guide you on that. There is, of course, dedicated physical facilities throughout the campus, right? For regardless of whichever pillar that you go to. So you have dedicated resources that's easily accessible to almost any of you. Likewise, if you choose to pursue, let's say, research, undergraduate research, again, that allows you to tap in easily, to any of these facilities that, is available. State-of-the-art, top-end printers, top-end 3D printers, for example, that you get to use that, may otherwise not be accessible to many other places. Needless to mention, right, the time, the free consultation, whether it is for your academic classes, your competitions, the hackathons, we are always ready there to be there to help any one of you. Yeah.
Okay, I see that the clock is ticking down, and there's still questions flowing in. I just briefly want to address some of them myself, if that's okay. Over here, I've got questions about applying. Actually, for that, you might want to stick around for the admissions and scholarship talk that's later. I think it's around after lunch. So just be mindful of that if that's what you're worrying about. Over here, there are questions about chemistry and biology, and someone here hates chemistry. Someone here loves chemistry. A match made in hell, really. But, okay, is there chemistry and biology in the curriculum? Yeah, you learn a little bit of it in Freshmore. That's it. If you love chemistry and math, could you give suggestions as to what area of engineering will be more applicable with these subject matters? Can't speak for myself. I'm doing battery work. Lots of chemistry, lots of math. If you like that, go find Prof. Yang Hui Ying. Okay, so with that, I think we have 3 minutes on the clock.
If you don't mind, all right, I just want to add on a little bit. So one is very interesting, right? At the other end of the spectrum, when I first spoke to Kush, he came to me and I love chemistry. I want to do something related to chemistry, all right? That is what I remembered, right? But at the same time, besides Kush, there were other students within the class who likewise, based on the people who was attending this session, do not like chemistry. And I think this is the beautiful part about the SUTD curriculum. It caters for different types of interests, right? If you like chemistry, you find a prof and you go, I want to do this. Who should I speak to? Generally speaking, one of us will be able to direct you to someone who's actually working on that particular area, right? Likewise, if you prefer to focus on something else, again, I think we can more or less quite certainly say you will be able to find someone and use this, what I call the unorthodox path, the informal paths via research through internships, and you build up, that interest and become really good at that. So the opportunities are there with our diverse, curriculum.
Okay, with that, I think we'll just go into the last question. I do see there are quite a few questions that are still coming in. I welcome you all to reach out to us in some way. Maybe register for open house, pop by tomorrow, ask questions, go to the booths, all these things. Please do that because we can't be answering all your questions while we're sitting here on stage. So for our final question really is and this is really addressed to everyone, what are the last words, what are the last suggestions, pieces of advice you can give to people who are watching, who are attending today, so that they can make up their mind about coming to join us in EPD? So maybe we can start from Prof. Chua.
If you're looking for something very unique, a very unique kind of pedagogy and training, SUTD is probably the place for you.
I would say that if you are wondering whether you should study mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, material science, biomedical engineering, come to EPD. Because this is what EPD's faculty members are made of, professors from these various traditional disciplines.
Okay, so if I need to say anything, I would say, you can always discover more about EPD at any time in your first year with SUTD, but it is really broad. We are highly collaborative. You can still work with, other pillars as well, right? So this is a place to really grow your personal interests, to become stronger in whatever that you are keen to pursue. Yeah.
If I have one last thing to add, if you come to SUTD, regardless of what background you are, where you come from, what your skill set is, you are never alone. Everyone can excel here. And that's all from me. Thank you.
And well, I guess I have to give advice. Come to SUTD. It's fun. It's cool. And frankly, you will grow. You will grow in ways that you never expected. And this place is just so rife with opportunity. It's incredible that there's so many places for you to flourish, so many profs who are willing to extend their hand, reach out to you. It's like, it's insane, right? It really is insane. Do you other universities just can't compare to something like this? This is a land of opportunity, and really all you need to do is apply, join us, and you can discover it for yourself. With that, I think we can come to the end of this Ask EPD session. Thank you for joining us today. For this Ask EPD session in the SUTD Open House 2022. I'm Alex, this is Prof. Chua, Prof. Loh, Prof. Tan, Kush, and we are signing off. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Chua and esteemed speakers.